Welcome to the Casual Adventure Notes podcast, the CAN podcast, lazy, easy listening about little life's adventures.
And lessons.
I'm Doz.
And I'm Debbie.
And we are here for another episode of the CAN podcast. Let's kick off with a palate cleanser. We'll continue with the one that we did last series, which is the 101 series, but for business. Devs, you have the book on your left.
Yeah. Sorry, I just found this like randoms. Anyway, that's fun.
No. Oh, I don't know.
I'll just leave it here.
It was important. I feel like whenever you find like loose screws around your home, you should keep it just in case.
Yeah. Well, if something falls apart, we'll know what it is. Yes. Do you want to pick a number, Doreen?
Let's go with number 7. Through the page for number 7. Flip.
All right. So this one is called the Board of Directors. So on the left, it has like a little bar chart of the composition of Fortune 500 boards and how many as a percentage is men, women, and minorities. The majority seems to be men, then women, then minorities. All right, so a corporation is required by law to have a board of directors elected by and having a fiduciary responsibility to the owners, i.e. stockholders. A board should consist of experts in the industry and represent the long-term interests of the owners and other stakeholders. A board governs at a strategic rather than day-to-day level. It establishes policies, sets direction, hires and supervises top management, is responsible for compliance with laws and regulations, and assures adequate resource for operations. Directors of non-for-profit corporations do not represent stockholders, but the organization's membership as well as the general public. Some boards, non as well as for-profit, considers themselves responsible to all parties interested in or affected by the organization's activities, including customers, employees, suppliers, neighbors, and even the natural environment. Such boards strive for a membership that reflects the diversity of the communities in which they work.
It's describing what a board is in business, right? Because I know that unless you start working, that's a foreign concept to a lot of people.
Yeah, sorry. The dog, I can hear them sniffing in the background there. Yes, boards. I think they're in most cases, are they mandatory?
I don't know if they're mandatory. Maybe like if you want your business to be classified as certain,
like a publicly listed company.
But I know private businesses that have boards. But then I also know like smaller companies don't have a board.
Maybe it's like a sort of a governance that's set up. So the CEO, which is generally like the top person, doesn't make all the calls. And so they have to go through a process of, if they want to restructure a company or if they want to implement a certain big, expansion of some sort, that has to go through the board who, like the description says, has a mix of people of different experiences and qualifications to then sort of unanimously agree to, A-OK the idea or say nay.
I just did a quick Google search, and I think in some countries and in certain states, it's law. If you're formally registered as a corporation, you need a board. But in some countries, it's not enforced by laws, but it's like highly recommended or something like that. So I think it just depends what the business is defined as formally on paper and also where it operates by the sounds of it.
But it makes sense though. It's almost like tying into in the way that governments operate. Like there's a democracy where there is one person that is the leader, that they have to get, unanimous agreement within their broader group and colleagues to put up a certain policy idea. Whereas you probably have some other governments which have one person that makes all the calls. That's probably more in your dictatorship or them like singular authoritative setups.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's good because it's also always like, or not always, but most of the time it's like someone who's not involved in the day to day. So there's not that same attachment or bias that comes through.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we need that in our lives, just like in our personal lives. It's like whenever you seek support from your friends and stuff like that, there's always going to be a natural bias, right?
Yeah. I think it goes back to something we discussed last week. You know, when you just say you invent a piece of product, you've obviously got the passion and interest behind it, but then maybe it's something that might not necessarily be successful or something that's going to fly off the shelf. So you need that external advice. I guess that's where like all those what are those like not interest groups, but those like sort of they do like those sometimes, like for example, when there's like a new TV show that hasn't aired, they'll put it to like a focus group. That's it. I guess it's sort of similar to like in a way how a focus group works.
Yeah.
And I think focus group, you actually get paid for that as well. Yeah.
There is certain public studies that people can participate in and get paid for, yes, because it's like an incentive. Otherwise, no one really wants to do them because it's like donation of time, and time is valuable.
Focus groups are like generally, it's like a food product or TV show. They just aim for the general public. Well, I guess the board of directors is a very certain skill set, and that's why they get paid quite handsomely for reading, papers and then voting on certain, proposals and directions.
Yeah. Adjusting the audio. Okay, cool. Let's dive into our main course then. I just finished the series The Bear. Well, not finished. There's 3 seasons out at the moment, and I just finished season 3 because that just came out like a month ago or 2 months ago. It is a series that follows a young chef, like a very like talented, well-known chef, or like an upcoming well-known chef. Like the character's name is Cammy. I think his name might be Cameron. Actually, I don't know what his full name is, but in the show they always call him Cammy. Is he the
main character?
He's the main character. He's Carmen. His name's Carmen. I said Cameron, right? No, his name's Carmen, but they all call him Cammy. They call him Cammy, and they also call him the Bear, hence the title is called The Bear.
So why do they call him the Bear?
I don't know. It's just, it hasn't really explained it in detail, but it was just a family nickname. But anyways, so it follows Carmy, who's played by Jeremy Allen White. And he's an upcoming chef that's very talented. Like he's gone overseas and has worked in like Michelin star restaurants. He's very good at what he does, but he has all these like personal demons, just from like mental trauma. And it's kind of alluded that like he just himself is just like quite a broken person because he had a really rough upbringing. And then they set the scene from season 1 where he actually returns to his hometown in Chicago to take over a family business which sells sandwiches. And because he's kind of like a well-known chef, it kind of leads into him closing that shop and wanting to open his own restaurant. And then through like relationships and meeting other people, there's like this goal to like do well and earn a star or multiple stars. Like that's kind of the gist of it. So like the series in general on the surface, I consider it a comedy drama because there's a lot of like deep, dark plots and storyline related to it, but there's like humor in it, whether it be like just straight up funny or dark humor in it, through the dialogues, through the characters, through just random scenes. But on the surface, the plot is around like the hospitality industry, the restaurant industry in general. So you're following like, because he's a main chef, you're following like his team and how they like overcome obstacles to like create this restaurant and make it succeed and where they all fit into that picture. So that's probably like the surface storyline and what sets the scene and the context to build all the other stories around. And then as with all good stories, a lot of like the depth comes from each individual character's backstory and how their characters are written, what kind of challenges they need to overcome themselves, and how the relationships with one another kind of help them through it, or like help that character development.
Yeah.
So I am speaking about it because ever since it kind of got released in 2022, it's gotten pretty like good reviews.
Yeah, I always see it popping up for like during awards show season. It always seems to
get nominated.
Nominated. And I think the main actor, who I know as playing Lip from Shameless for like, I don't know how many seasons he did that for, which he also played a very broken character in that one as well. But yeah, I think he won like Best Actor.
I don't actually know all the
like
awards.
One of the, like for an Emmy?
Maybe Jeremy Allen White.
Globe or both?
The Bear has also won 4 Golden Globe Awards with acting wins for Jeremy Allen White and also the main female lead, Ayo Edebiri. I hope I pronounced her name right. And the Golden Globe Award for Best Television Series in Musical or Comedy. And that was for 2024, so very recent. So yeah, award-winning show, essentially. But even recent, like, so I say like, from the start, it's always been like highly praised. And season 3, also very highly praised. But what I've observed from it recently is I like to use the word they've been braver with how they approach the series. So from the get-go, it's such a good cohort of actors and actresses who are just like phenomenal at portraying their characters. It's so well written. And it's a pretty high production value, like everything's shot really nicely, the editing's good, the pacing's good, like it's just an overall well-rounded good show. And I remember, because I only watched it after I think season 2 was halfway through, and then I ended up picking it up because of all the hype, and then I just binged. I waited for season 2 to finish, and then I binged it all, and I was like, loved it, and like recommend it to everyone. I think like the attraction to it is the story. Like, even though it's based on hospitality and like the restaurant industry, I think a lot of the human elements are very relatable. So the hardship of like finding this balance of like weaving in your passion into work, working just to survive, trying to seek light-heartedness in a world that's quite rough and tough and where there's a lot of trauma that comes into your life, and like seeking that lightness. So that comes out because the sandwich shop was really like mum and dad shop, very small. They all just bicker at each other. It's very rowdy, really friendly, a lot of regulars, like this really like light-hearted place. So then all the workers there like had this like, it was almost like an escape for them. So not only was it a haven for them to like make ends meet, it was also like a place that they could just joke around and like just do their thing and like be carefree. And then I think the contrast is like when it turns to start a serious business, they lose that lightheartedness. So there's that loss. But then at the same time, the character development comes from like discovering new ambitions and goals and pushing themselves to do more rather than it just being a paycheck. So some of them realize like their passion for food and creating things and appreciating their creativities and creating experiences through food. So there's kind of that balance. And I think that translates into not just the food industry, but just like in life. And I think that's part of the appeal. So it's just like, it's just navigating that balance in life of like challenging yourself and finding comfort to find resilience in the hardship of life. Like, I think that's kind of attractive. Plus the characters are just great, like amazing. I'm trying not to like spoil too much while also talking about it. But yes, very good show. Highly recommend. I want everyone to watch it. But like I said, it's high production value. But what they did in season 3 is I really think they pushed the line with it. So there's always this thing, I think, in the world that's kind of unspoken where, yes, there is an appreciation for art and the crafts and stuff like that. But because art is subjective, sometimes it's not always going to be appreciated by the masses.
Yep.
So that's why you get like movies and TV series that are pushed out that, you know, might not have the highest production value, but it's a good story and it's still going to do really, really well.
Yeah, there's a lot of films that get released and they're just what they call like what's the saying? They're kind of before their time. And so people don't appreciate them until like 10, sometimes 20 years later, where it becomes like a cult.
Like what?
Like think about like this is kind of like I don't know, this is what, but think about Mean Girls. Like when it first came out, everyone's like, "Oh, this is just like a teen movie about, you know, high school girls and culture." And then it's become like this cult film that now has like a musical and this huge following and all these millions of memes that have been created from it. And people really sort of resonate with the film, you know, emotionally, even though, you know, it's just like a comedy high school film.
Yeah, actually, that proves the point that I think that I agree with, which is I was watching an interview with Ryan Reynolds because he's doing the press round to promote the new Deadpool movie. And he said something in an interview that kind of resonated or articulated something really well, which is when people consume film or media like shows and stuff like that, generally they will leave with a takeaway of remembering characters and their stories, which means that they'll remember quotes they see or scenes that they happen where the character's interacting with another or with themselves. Like it's always a story. So with Mean Girls, like there's so many quotes that come out of it, and there's like the characters were written in such like a thoughtful way that they've kind of like survived the test of times, I guess.
Yeah, it's been over like what 20 years.
Yeah,
and people still like post quotes about like wearing pink on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
What's that one?
Iconic. That's so fetch.
That's so fetch.
Is there something degrees chance that it's raining right now?
Because it's raining already. Yeah.
And the Jingle Bell Rock and having the mum like.
Oh yeah, the full sort of mum that's living through her daughter, but also herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they're all like an example of like art in the form of like storytelling, which is its own form. And then I think Ryan was kind of alluding like that is like such a significant part that touches like a mass audience because everyone's a human. So you're going to find human connections and what's it like when you like relate to it, like you're going to find that more at a mass level versus something that's more subjective, which is what you could describe as like cinematic shots. So something could be shot so beautifully, like lit, like so intentionally taken 2 hours to set up. Every single prop is like being handpicked so that it adds to the scene. And 100% it does add to it in a very subtle way. And depending on the person consuming it, the level of appreciation is very different. But why I said The Bear Got Brave is in season 3, I felt like the producer and directors and the director of photography and all of them probably made like a decision where they're like, let's push the boundary with our production. Let's do what we want and what we love. Because what I've noticed in season 3 is it is so much more cinematic. And they've like really kind of pushed that edge where you would never like there's no guarantee or it's actually very unlikely that it's going to appeal to a mass market. And the perfect example of this is episode 1. Episode 1 of season 3 is just a series of montage. So there's no dialogue. It's like a bunch of beautifully shot things like close-ups of foods, just people talking, some weird like historical things edited into it. It's just like cut, 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 cut. It's a montage of just cinematic things. Then if you are a fan, you break it down, you find the meaning behind it and the analogies behind it. But at the end of the day, it's just a montage of like visual things that might not necessarily add to the story significantly, like enough. Like you could get away with watching from episode 2 onwards to know what's going on in the series. Like you don't need to watch episode 1. The episode 1 was just the opening to the season and it was just like this cinematic thing. And the reason I brought up, because I liked it, like I like watching it and stuff like that, but my opinion resonated with a lot of people online, like the everyday person, not like someone who judges an award, where I saw memes online where they're like, wow, season 3, episode 1 of The Bear, beautifully shot, like so well thought out, the metaphors in it, and then it goes ... and so freaking boring that I'm never going to watch that again.
It's actually it's so similar. There's there's a new movie there's been a movie that's already been released. I actually just saw this was on Netflix because I was like, oh, why is this movie in black and white? Because it's like a 2024 movie. But then I realized it was a movie that was released last year. It's like a Godzilla movie, and they had decided to release it in black and white and they put it in the cinema and a whole bunch of people ended up seeing it. But I don't know. I think the reasoning from the black and white was more nostalgia because that was sort of reflecting on the origins of the first movie when it came out. But apparently a lot of people bought it and, ended up going seeing it again. So yeah, okay. I think I gets, because I've also seen a lot of like random TV series where they do something that's very like out of the blue, like either making an episode in black and white or changing the even the language or the dialect for some reason. And I'm just like, I'm not sure what the purpose is, but and I'm also not sure whether I appreciate it enough. Maybe I'm just not artistic, but yeah, it seems to be maybe like an artistic flair from, like you said, the producers and directors wanting to explore new.
And sometimes it pays off. I can't think of an example of right now of one that's paid off, but it definitely has. I guess, actually, who's that really famous director? The one that did Pulp Fiction?
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Technically, all his work is actually quite cinematic.
Yeah, that's right. Because Kill Bill, like he'd integrate, like obviously that was a live action film, but then he would have certain sections of it in black and white. And I think part of that was the sections where they were a bit more grueling because of the blood and stuff. So I think that helped temper it down with not seeing red blood everywhere, because it's a sort of a, what do you call, like not a slasher film, but it's one of those films. There's a lot of gore and in some ways very, stomachy aspects. But then he had also inspiration from Japanese anime, and he had a scene reflecting like a
manga panel.
Yeah, exactly, in Kill Bill. And I can't remember what else he had in there. But he also integrated a lot of Asian influences in the style of filming, particularly on like the sort of fighting scenes, like the martial arts stuff, where he would pay homage to how those were filmed, back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. So he's quite like known for producing cinematic work, and it's paid off for him. Not like, I think now it pays off for him just because of like his reputation. So people just watch those films just cause he's a legend now. But like, think of it at the start, like he technically did something that was like out of the norm and it paid off. So sometimes it does. With the bear, I don't know if it will. Like, I don't know in 10 years if there's going to be shows and movies produced that like take inspiration from the bear to try to film that stuff. But people are kind of commenting on that at the moment, which I think is true. I don't think they've steered far enough. Like, I don't think they've taken the craft far enough that it's still not appealing to the mass audience. I think the story is still there. I think it's still told via the dialogues and everything that happens. So there's still kind of like a strong storyline and strong character development that people are following. But I thought that was interesting because it's just like, where's that balance of like, just in life, of trying to be innovative and disruptive while still trying to like, I don't know, like do well, I guess.
But still, yeah, don't not scare off, but like don't sort of be too, what's it called?
Don't be too conservative.
Too avant-garde that you lose your audience. Yeah.
Yeah, because what was I thinking about that made me think of that? So I follow a lot of like online personalities, so content creators and streamers, so like more like new media content creators, so not traditional films and stuff. And it's interesting because sometimes, as the ones who have been in it for over a decade, they always comment around how like it gets to like the ones who are considered very successful, they say, it gets to a point where you start creating content based on what people want rather than what you want, because that's how you do well. But then generally, because they're just like an everyday person, they went into it doing what they wanted first, and it just happened to have a mass appeal. Like they got lucky. But then over time, they had to keep up by meeting the demands of like a mass audience instead of just doing what they love. And it's just like, where do you draw that line?
It happens and resonates a lot with like artists and music, particularly when a new artist sign in. The first album they'll produce is really produced and marketed for mass commercial appeal, like very poppy, catchy songs. And then when the artist gets really popular, they try to integrate or be more, I guess, themselves, and do a second album, which in most cases, unfortunately, flops and doesn't sell as well because it's not, that sort of catchy pop tune. And then it's like a case of them going back because, at the end of the day, like the record label has to make money and they probably also need to make money. So they have to go back to those things that, sell and, poppy catch songs sell.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to start the palate cleanser with the business thing, because it's so interesting how much business has to play into life.
Yeah, I mean, I personally find the psychology ones a lot more stimulating. I think it's maybe because it's an area in human psychology that is a lot more complex, and in some ways it's a bit more relevant because we all sort of as humans have certain bias or anxiety or a lot of emotional feelings that we don't actually completely understand. So I think that book helps explain a lot. Whereas business stuff, it's kind of I wouldn't want to say, but it's kind of a little bit of a bore.
We do enough of it in life. So the bear, speaking of psychology, the bear is so good because I think it plays with every human psychologies and how different people deal with grief. Because a part of the main context setting is the death of Kami's older brother, which is what triggers him to actually come home to take over the restaurant. Because before that, his older brother was the one who owned the restaurant. Also, if you haven't watched The Bear and you care for it, maybe don't listen to the rest of this episode because I won't spoil it completely, but I'm going to say enough that if you care about the actual plot, then I think there will be spoilers just naturally from what I say. But essentially, The Bear opens with the brother, doesn't open with the brother killing himself, but it's implied that the brother has passed away, and then later it's revealed that he had committed suicide, and it's the grief that comes with that and the aftermath that comes with that, depending on the dynamic of the relationship, plays out, particularly in the first season. And now we see it how it's kind of affected their life long term in the following seasons. So the little brother, Kami, comes home because of it. The older brother was the one who was heading the restaurant. So now Kami's taking over with his experience and trying to make it his own thing. His best friend, so the older brother's best friend, he was just working at the restaurant. So now he has to find his place, and he's trying to work with the little brother. There's his sister that's also pregnant and expecting a baby soon, and it's how she's coping with that. And then the mum who has her own set of mental issues and how she plays into it and how she's dealt with the loss of a son and how present she can be as a mother while she's also battling her own mental health issues as well. So her other kids need her and that she's not always there for them. So it's playing with that. And then there's also other characters that it's interesting because they only knew him as a boss, for example, but he still touched their lives in some way. So it's about how they've handled grief around that. And even though it's not as deeply rooted as compared to some of the families and his best friends and stuff like that, it's interesting how there was moments with him that has shaped who this character is. So, for example, in the later season, one of the chefs in the kitchen now, she's like an older lady. She's like a mum with like a kid that's a little bit older. So she's like old. And
she's old.
And then there's a scene in season 3 that I think would like hit a lot of people, which is she actually worked at a company for like 15 years plus, or like a stupid amount in a factory, just like someone in admin. So she doesn't have a lot of like skills, but she's worked there for her whole life. It's been enough for her and she was like content. And then, but regardless of that, she was chasing more money to give her son a better life. So she was like with her husband, like, oh, you know, we got to like try to get like, you need to get promoted to try to like provide more. And then that same day she got made redundant. And then she's like, it's okay. Like, I don't give up. Like, I'm going to do more. And then it kind of shows a series of like 2 weeks where she's like trying to apply for jobs the way she knew how to when she started working. So she was physically going into store and asking if they're hiring and giving out like a paper resume.
Yeah.
And then there's this contrast of like every time she sees someone in these like low skilled jobs, there's someone in their like 20s and they're just teenagers. And like in one of the shops that she goes in to give her resume, the girl's like, oh, we only accept applications on LinkedIn. And she's like, oh, what's LinkedIn? Because it's like the new way to like apply for jobs.
Yeah.
And then even then when she does that, like she doesn't get anywhere, and she realizes because she's like older with no skills and they're going to favor the youth. And then like at first she gets angry, but then she has a breakdown in the sandwich shop, which is how she ends up there. She ends up working there because the guy offers her a job.
Yeah.
But she has a breakdown in the sandwich shop because she's like, how am I supposed to survive? I don't have any skills to like have work. The world's ages, so I'm not going to be able to get there. But at the same time, she's like, I'm actually just jealous of the youth because they have opportunities. They're willing. They have ambitions. Like, it's just like, it's quite deep. And then the guy, it just happened to be like a time thing where she comes in, she has a breakdown. The guy the main big brother that has passed away, witnesses her breakdown and ends up like just more trying to comfort for her at the start. And as they share their recent bad experience in their own lives, he ends up going, hey, actually, if you need a job, like I could use the help if you want. Like just think about it, blah, blah. And then that's how it kind of starts. And then it's almost like his kindness at a point in time when she needed it, that starts impacting her as well long term, and how all she really wants to do is like offer kindness to people. And then you see it in the way she interacts in like the new restaurant environment. So now that she's working in this new restaurant, for example, Kami puts her in charge of like going to the farmer's market to get fresh ingredients the morning of the restaurant to like experience food. And then she realized like the farmer market, the smaller vendor that she gets all her food from, like he's smaller and he will only ever have what people need or less. So it started becoming less. And when she came back, she's like, we got to find a way to like be able to buy more for him so that he can survive, kind of thing. Like she wants to like extend her kindness. But then in the background, Kami and like the business side of it, they're like, oh no, we need, like if we want to save on costs, we need to start looking at like a bigger supplier. And we can't just go to the farmer market and pay like a premium price. And it's just like this complex like dynamic and stuff like that, which is what makes the show so interesting to watch, I think. Because you're like, you don't really know who to root for because there's not really like a traditional good guy or bad guy in any of this. It's just about navigating like how rough life is and, you know, depending on your experience and who you are, how you overcome that or how you just deal with it in general, even if you're not overcoming it.
Yeah. Kind of like, it's kind of sad when it's mentioning about her trying to essentially, you know, make her way through modern 21st century society. So now I'm like, oh, you know, next time, you know, someone that's a little bit older asks you, you know, can you show me how to save something as a PDF or how do you upload something onto SharePoint? Maybe just be a little bit more
Nicer.
empathetic. Yeah.
It's true though. Like, I know it's funny to make fun of people who doesn't know how to convert something into PDF because it comes so naturally if you grew up knowing how to convert something into a PDF.
Mm.
How would you know if you didn't grow up like that?
Yeah. It comes with this. It's almost like an assumption that I've done it for so long, but it's like the same now. Kids these days that are like under single digits know how to fully operate an iPad and tech, whereas I would say that I didn't probably know that until I was more in double digits. At least 12, 13 in my teenage years.
Yeah. I mean, I think upskilling's a thing. Like, I think it's important to always continue learning in life so that you can't always keep up with everything, but I think a thirst for knowledge and quenching your curiosity in life will always kind of help. But it's rough. I know it's rough. That a lot of people don't. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before. The floppy disk?
Yeah.
And you know how that's the icon to like save?
Mm.
It's kind of wild that there's generations of people that don't know why that's the icon or even knows what it is.
So yeah, if they were to redo the icon, what is a more recognized picture to indicate save?
It doesn't always have to be like a direct picture of something though, because if you think about like some choices today, it can just become the norm. So think about what icon represents a menu on a website or an app. What is it really? It's either a bunch of lines, horizontal lines that you could argue is like a list, so it's like a menu, or it's a dot, like dot, 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 dot in the square, and that's the menu.
Yeah. Or you just have to like do the you go to the search function and just put the specific action you want to do, like save.
Are you a search person?
Yeah, sometimes I can't find it because I don't know whether it's my toolbar's been set up where it's a bit more minimalist. So then sometimes not all the stuff's appearing there, so I have to search things up. Like the one thing I always have to search up, which I can never find in my inbox, is setting an out of office. Like I just cannot for some reason find that, so I always have to search it up. I don't know, what is that as an icon out of office? Does it even have one, or is it just the wording?
I guess, I don't know. I envision like a little calendar icon with like a cross or something like that. I don't know. I set an out of office using the calendar app. But you want the email to have an auto reply.
Yeah, I want to have like that little message that pops up. So when people do send you emails, it's saying, this person is on leave from X date to X date. Please contact X person if it's urgent, or wait till I return.
It's been a while since I've done that, but I felt like I could do that via the calendar app. Have you seen all the troll out of office comments online? I don't know if anyone really actually does it at work.
Yeah, I've seen that on TikTok. It's like some people have done like videos where you have to click on and you watch a video. Or there's a person that, a colleague that likes to write like a poem that rhymes. That's to kind of tell people like they're on leave and where they're going and when they'll be back in, a short couple of, rhymey lines. But yeah, it's, I just keep it very sort of basic and to
normal.
The point.
I started a thing. If I'm only taking like a day or 2 days off, I try not to put like an escalation point, because if anyone needs to escalate something, they should know who to escalate it to anyway. So I just don't put a contact anymore. But it's pretty funny because I read one the other day and the girl like says she's from marketing, and it's something like, I'm out of office until the end of the week. If anything urgent, think about it again. We're in marketing. And I thought that was really funny.
True. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, you think about it, no one's dying, especially if it's a day, and nothing is that urgent where it requires someone to, have to log on or be working 24/7 essentially. We're able to sort of operate with a weekend, which is 2 days off essentially. So if you're sick, or you have a day off because you have appointments and stuff, like the world is not going to stop turning.
Exactly.
I think that's a lesson that, particularly as a millennial, I'm still trying to sort of work around because, it's kind of feel like, can't really switch off. It's hard to do it because you feel like, particularly if you're in any role where you're a person that needs to funnel stuff through, you kind of feel like a hurdle or barrier if you're not around, but you can't be there all the time.
No, you can't. Like, whether it be physically or mentally because of things. But the favorite thing that people always say is because people tend not to rest when they need to, when it's mentally related. So if they're feeling burnt out or tired or just need a day, they don't generally take it off. They'll just kind of like go through it, which could cause more harm than good. But then people used to always say, oh, but if someone broke their leg and needed to take 2 days off to like do all the x-rays and stuff and get a cast and stuff like that, no one would blink an eye. It's like, why does it have to be physically?
Well, that was actually one of the lessons that we read about in the psychology book around how, physical illnesses are just a lot more, not valued, but they just have more weight and meaning to them versus mental because it's something that you can't physically see as an issue. Yeah.
It's easier for people to accept what's in front of them.
Yeah, a broken leg, it's a broken leg. If you kind of tell someone you're, highly stressed or anxious or you got depression, like, people can't read that. And it's very difficult these days because, particularly with social media, everyone posts the great aspects of their life. So, you never know that person. You think that person has a great, amazing life, but they might be in the depths of, struggling with who knows what.
There was a famous, not that famous, I don't know what to call it. There was basically an agency that did a research thing about how toxic like social media filtering is. So they created
filtering as in like photos and stuff, or
no, filtering as in like everyone has control of their own social media, so
and what they put up there,
they're curating what they want to show the world.
Yeah.
So they created this fake profile of this fake person. So she's not a real person, and it's of her like living her best life or alluded to living her best life. So it's her traveling, it's her at the beach every day. She's posting and it looks like she's always having the best time and always doing the most, always with people. But in every photo, she has an alcoholic beverage with her. And the lesson at the end of it, which is what the agency was trying to say, is like, they're like, oh, no one questioned the fact that she had an alcoholic beverage in every photo, which could have been sign that she was like drowning in something.
Drowning her sorrows in alcohol
or had an alcoholic problem in general. Yeah. And he's like, the agency was just like, oh, it kind of just shows that like people will only pay attention to what they want to pay attention to, and people will only put out what they want people to see, whether that be conscious or unconscious. But yeah, beautiful thought.
Yeah. Just going back to the bear I was going to mention before, because I haven't actually watched it, but I've seen a lot of clips and commentary discussing it. But the white T-shirt that the main guy wears, is that all he wears? Because it's become a bit of like a trending topic where people have like tried to find this T-shirt, this exact T-shirt of that he wears, and then I think someone did find it, and then they've ended up selling out. But is that his like signature look he wears? And the other thing is like, if you're a chef, isn't wearing white kind of like, in a way, like taboo? Because they're like, surely that's going to get so dirty because you're in the kitchen, you're sweating a lot, you're moving around. Like, wouldn't it make sense to wear black?
Well, it's common for chefs to wear white because that's what they're not like. A chef shirt like outfit. That's always white.
Is that more for like what you see in TV and movies, but like in reality, is that actually the case? Because I feel like wearing black just makes more sense. Because I think when I was working in hospitality as a waiter, like everyone was like told to wear black because it was, just more clean, even though you weren't actually clean.
I think that's the weights. I think that's common for weight stuff. I think chefs, so I just Googled chefs. Why do chefs wear white? Chefs traditionally wear white for several practical and symbolic reasons. So cleanliness. White uniforms allow chefs to easily see and address stains and spills. This ensures that they maintain a high standard of cleanliness and hygiene in the kitchen. White is also symbolism of professionalism and respectability in the culinary world in general.
Okay, all right.
Apparently heat reflection. White clothing reflects heat.
Yeah, that's right. Because black absorbs heat, and so in your kitchen it'll be hot. Okay, so it's a bit of like you said, some symbolism, but then also it's almost being more transparent and accountable. 'Cause, if you're wearing black and you've got a stain, like in most cases, no one's going to really see unless it's really bad or they get up close.
I think the white t-shirt that Kami wears is more common in season 1. If I'm honest, I don't really remember it like as profoundly, but I think it is a common thing he wears, but like underneath or casually stuff. Like it's not his uniform because they have a chef jacket that they wear. It might be something he wore underneath or when he had the sandwich shop. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But I saw the t-shirt go viral online as well. It's like a Japanese branded t-shirt and apparently it has like no hems. Like it's not two-piece that's sewed.
Yes.
It's like, so it's supposed to hug you really well.
I think we might have been fed the same video. But it was, and then it was like this, people were like getting obsessive over like this t-shirt and the whole sort of trend of wearing, clean, white, good quality t-shirts, became a thing.
I think he is also wearing that in all the promos as well for season 1, so that's why it got so popular.
It's so funny because I haven't watched the series. I've only, like I said, seen clips, but that's for me the synonymous with the show is
the white t-shirt.
Is the guy wearing the white t-shirt. Then also did raise questions around like why does because white is such a impractical color for the working environment. Why would you choose to wear white? Like I don't like wearing white because I know like after time it's going to get stained. It's not going to look like that fresh white like you got when you first bought it. Whereas other colors like blue, black, you wash it a dozen times and it still looks the same. Yeah. People
don't always dress to be practical though. Sometimes it just looks nice.
Hence probably you've never seen me wear white in any of these podcasts.
So this is only from a first search, so I don't know how true this is, but it says that the white uniform dates back from the 19th century and was maintained as a standard for professional kitchen worldwide and allegedly made famous or at least popularized by a famous French chef named Augustus.
Some French person, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I need to work on my pronunciation. Let me Google who he is. A French chef and restaurateur. He was who was he? One of the most influential Western chef in the history. He was born in 1846 and passed away in 1935. Writer popularized and updated traditional French cooking methods. Much of his technique was based that of Marie Antoine Carême, which I think is another French thing. I can't read this fast enough to tell you why he's famous, but I'm assuming he probably was one of the people who wrote out and established a lot of like French techniques in cooking, which I know is popular.
It's kind of like so he sort of was particularly I'm assuming he sort of was famous for whatever cooking, culinary, and he was always wearing white. So then everyone just sort of started copying him, and then it just became a thing, and that became part of the culture of the chef and culinary industry. It's kind of like similar to like we go back to like the Vietnam Nguyen dynasty, and how a lot of people Vietnamese end up changing their name, like surname, to Nguyen, and part of that was to be more associated with the royal family. In some cases, I think there was like gifts and property bestowed, and that's why there's probably so many Nguyen's, because kind of all started through that that era where everyone's like, "Yep, I want to be a Nguyen because the king and the queen are, or the emperor and empress are Nguyen's," and then we have so many Nguyen's now.
That is wild. It's one thing to like copy what people wear as a form of what's the word? Respect? Not respect. Like admiration. Like it's one thing
Flattery.
to copy.
What's that word? What's that saying? Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's one thing to copy like what someone wears. It's another thing to change your bloody last name.
I don't know, but these days, like you see people, they idolize like a certain celebrity, like say the Kardashians, and then people get like a heap of plastic surgery to look exactly like them.
Yeah.
So changing your last name is, to be honest, not really that much. It's probably actually easier than going through surgery to look like someone.
I feel like the weight of last name is not as heavy as it once was. I think.
Yeah, we're very less sort of about titles and where you come from. I'm sure there's still a whole class of old money and people that, get, certain sort of tingle or respect when they've got a certain surname. But maybe we're just not in that circle. But
that's true.
But I feel like we're more progressive, where it's about one's own contribution and what that person as an individual brings to society or benefits society than where they came from and what their name or family they're from. And that should always be the case. And it should always be based on merit, not. Well, I was going to say not who you know, but that still probably is the case.
I'm reading this book at the moment, and in the book, it's when people get married. So the world that it's set in, it's based on power, like power level and how strong you are and all that jazz. And when you get married to someone, you take the last name of the strongest person, not based on
not based
gender?
on being the male. Yeah.
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 I was like, that's badass. I love it. All right, let's wrap things up with our dessert then. Gratitude of the week, things we're thankful for, whether it be from the week, the hour, the month, whatever we can think of. It is a moment that we are intentionally taking to appreciate the sweet moments of our lives. Do you have anything that you want to be grateful for or thankful for?
Probably nothing's coming to mind. So maybe do you want to go first and then come back to me?
Yeah. Let me think. What have I been doing recently that I really like? I think I appreciate, it's a small thing, but I like it a lot. Like just tea, like a hot cup of tea. I'm really grateful for, because I think there's just something nice about everything around tea. I think I spoke about it a couple of episodes ago about like the whole like heritage of tea being like so prestigious and whatever. But now it's just like a comfort beverage, and it really is comforting. There's just something nice around the context of tea now that I think I really appreciate. So whether it be when people come over, you serve them tea, or when you want to wind down, you have a hot cup of tea while you're reading your book and stuff like that. So I think there's like a association of peace that comes with tea that I really like. So I am grateful for the beverage tea.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's why you've been so obsessed with that little thermos thing that keeps like your tea hot for like 24 hours. Yeah.
Oh my God. So I keep telling everyone about it, but like everyone keeps making fun of me. So thermos, like those big things that you like store hot or cold water in, and it like stays that temperature for almost like the whole day. I've been doing this thing when I work. I fill it up at the start of the day with like my favorite tea. So it's like over a liter of tea. And then it means that every time I pour myself tea during the whole day, it's always going to be really hot. And I'm just like loving life. Because before that, what I was doing, it was either making like multiple cups of teas during the day if I'm in the mood for it. So it means like, you know, like going down, boiling the water and doing all that jazz. Or if I wanted a large volume of it, I would fill up a teapot and then just like pour that during the day. But then that got cold like after like a couple of hours. So I always had to drink it fast. But now I have a giant thermos that can last all day.
Simple things in life, huh? How much joy they bring you. Mine's gonna actually be like on talking about the bear is probably about people that work in hospitality. Really want to sort of give a shout out to them. Having also been a waiter back in my uni days, it is really quite a stressful job. You're sort of, in most cases, like dealing with multiple tables, making sure they're clean, serving customers, bringing their food. It's a lot of work. And I think, it's always easy to be the customer and, food comes a little bit late or, something's not completely right. It's, I'm not saying not to say anything, but, I think just probably be a little bit tempered in sort of how you talk to, hospitality people, because they are people at the end of the day. It'd be nice.
Nothing goes wrong when you are being kind and nice.
Yeah.
Okay, meal preps, goals and things we want to do in the future. Big goals, small goals, just a list on our to-do list that we want to tick off, that we want to be more accountable for out and call out.
Mine's easy. You do taxes. On the sort of topic of things in business, it's sort of the end of financial year, so I need to get on my taxes.
That's a good one. I want to be better at recycling. I used to be really, really good at separating my waste. Like when I cook, I would have a bowl and I would put my food scraps in it and then I would chuck that in the green bin. And I was really good at like separating my papers from my waste and like cleaning out containers before I chucked them in the recycling bin. And I felt like I've let the ball drop just out of like laziness and using the excuse of life being busy to kind of like let that fall. So I want to just build up that habit again so that it's just something I do rather than something that feels like a chore.
Well, to be fair, I mean, you still probably reuse a lot of the plastics and jars that you encounter and buy. So yeah, you're still doing your bit for the environment.
Yeah, but it's about getting better, not just doing okay.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's wrap up then. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We appreciate you and we thank you for your time and we can't wait to hear you and see you. No, we don't hear and see you. You hear and see us. Anyways, see you next time. Bye.
See you later. Peace.